Good afternoon. My name is Conor McManus, and you are listening to the Collective Fitness Show. Today is going to be a funny old episode. I've got an old partial acquaintance of mine and fellow fitness enthusiast David Birtwistle here. Say hello, mate.
Hey guys, how's it going?
So, probably about, was it November 2017, if I'm not mistaken, when we first met, wasn't it?
17 or 18?
What were we in? 18. It was 18. Sorry. Yeah. So we both did a functional fitness competition over in Sydney when I used to live there, and I worked at a gym. And then didn't really get to meet you too much on the day, but then you popped into the gym not long after the competition. And I think it was funny. I heard probably the most English accent I have ever heard and I've ever come across. And it's funny, man, I used to get so much stick for my English accent in Sydney because I'm from Birmingham and our accents are disgusting. And now everyone was like, oh, this. I thought you guys were meant to sound like him. Why is your accent so terrible? And then I heard your accent come out and got chatting. And at that point, I knew that I was coming back to the UK. So I was like, oh, English person, fitness person, network, go out and chat. And then I've just been a pretty follower of yours on social media ever since. You know, you're pretty active, you're pretty consistent as social media goes. And I always remember there was a month or so where you just vanished off social media. And I always remember it because I messaged you during that period to see if you wanted to be on our Turf Games team for the following competition that was in London last summer. Never got a response off you for about 2 months. So I thought, oh, that was a little bit weird. And then time goes by. I saw you again at the Summer Festival. I think I shook your hand, like I was saying to you just before we started. You were mid vlog, so it was like a handshake and a see you later, mate, hope you're well kind of thing. And then I was on Netflix probably about 3 or 4 weeks ago now. See this TV program advertised. I was like, I know that bloke. I was like, I recognise that cheeky, chappy English face. And yeah, you are on a pretty popular Netflix show that I'll let you talk a little bit about in a minute. But yeah, and then it was just a really odd experience. So do you want to just give a little bit of a 101 on you and kind of your life that's led up to this point, and then we'll get a little bit more into the fitness side of things and try and unpack everything, but just kind of give everyone a bit of a backstory so they know who you are if they haven't seen the show.
Yeah, for sure, man. Great intro. So March 2019, I just put up a little post on my social and was like, off on an adventure. See you later. And I had lots of friends asking where are you going? What are you doing? When I came back asking what was going on. And I was like, I just went to see my brother in Sydney, did a digital detox, just had to get out the country. But the truth is a little bit different. And actually ended up flying to Mexico and filmed Too Hot to Handle, which is currently on Netflix. It's like a reality dating show with a twist. And the twist being that the goal isn't to get into a relationship. The goal is to develop deeper and more meaningful connections with people. So it's about kind of a bit of a juxtaposition for society, because there's a lot of instant quick fix stuff. There's like Tinder and Hinge and Bumble and dating apps and things like that, where maybe the goal is not necessarily to develop deep connections, but actually it's potentially just to have some frivolous fun, and that can be cool. But also a lot of us kind of crave that depth. And so the show was a little bit of a social experiment, shall we say.
Was that the original intention from the get-go, or did it kind of amalgamate into that?
It was the intention of the producers.
Cool.
It was they always designed, the show was always designed to be like that, but they didn't tell us.
Right.
So what I was told was, it's going to be great. You're going to have a great time. It's going to be loads of fun. Trust me, it's going to be good. You'll meet some great people. And I was like, all right, sounds like fun. And and then a couple of days in, we got hit with this twist about not being able to have sex, not being able to kiss, not being able to do anything for the whole time we're there. And the point of it being to bond with people and to get to know people properly and to really develop these deeper connections. So it was a really nice experience, and that's where I disappeared off to, and
yeah. To be
that's
fair,
now
mate,
where people know me from.
I remember seeing, before I saw it on Netflix, I saw you put up like a little social post about it, and obviously a little well edited video, and I was like, oh, I was like, that's, you know, like a little bit of cringe and a little bit, but then we watched the show, watched it end to end, mate. You come off unbelievable. Like out of everybody there, you came off exceptionally well, and like and you
Thanks.
and like, so, you know, it's one of those things. Obviously, those shows can go down differently for different people, but mate, like, you did exceptional. And but anyway, so obviously, I had the pleasure of meeting you pre Too Hot to Handle. A lot of, like, you, obviously your social media and, and your probably your life in general has blown up since that appeared on Netflix. But I was fortunate enough to kind of to have the opportunity to interact with you pre that and get to know the personal trainer, the fitness man, David. So I'll kind of like want to understand what the chain of events that led up to that point in your life, because I know you started a business, is it Endeavour Life, like late last year,
Yeah.
and like I've always took a big interest in that because we're doing something similar on our end. So I want to like understand what like, when did you become a personal trainer? When did you get into the fitness industry? What did that look like for you? And how did you find fitness?
Yeah, well, it all started from rugby for me, to be
Okay, cool.
honest. Like, I was playing rugby when I was like 12, 13 or 14, something like that, 14, 15, 16. And then was playing for, like, got scouted to be in the London Wasps Academy. And then I went
Cool.
semi-pro for a few years. So I found fitness through playing rugby, like through strength and conditioning and being in that environment. And then I went to uni and did a strength and conditioning degree. Um, and then I came out of uni and I was like, well, I don't want to actually be a strength and conditioning coach. I don't want to give up my weekends and my weekdays and like my whole life to being a S&C coach for a
Yeah,
sports
yeah.
team. So I chose to go down the fitness route and work with like regular people, non-athletes.
For like, sorry to interrupt. For normal people, what's, obviously we know the answer to this question, but what's the difference between S&C and normal fitness for a normal generic Joe Blogs, and what is S&C for the Joe Blogs out there?
Yeah, so S&C stands for strength and conditioning. And although you might do both strength training and conditioning training, S&C is really the purpose. Like, what's the point of your training? And for the term strength and conditioning, it usually derives from a sports performance perspective. So everything that you do, all the training you do, is to get specifically better at the sport that you do. So for rugby, it would be, how do I get stronger, faster, more resilient, more powerful?
Yeah.
Like, that's pretty much what we do. So like, all of our training would be around that, and then to make sure we're fit enough to play. But all of the training that we do would be very specific to rugby, whereas you might have strength and conditioning for golf, which is completely different because they don't need to run, so they never do running training. Like, there's just no point.
Yeah.
But for a golfer, it would be, what's your rotational torque like? Like, how much rotational force can you produce under control repeatedly and with exactly the same movement pattern? And how can I prevent injury? How can I make you better at golf by training? So effectively, strength and conditioning is fitness for a specific sport. Whereas for Joe Blogs, fitness is basically like, how do I stay fit for life? Like, why do you train? That's basically what it comes down to. What's the point of you working out? And so for a sports person, it's, how do I get better at my sport? How do I win the gold medal? How do I win the championship? Or as for the individual that works in an office that has two kids that is, you know, a little bit overweight, why do you train? You probably train because you want to look good, you want to feel good, you want to be healthy, you want to live a little bit longer, and you want to have a healthier lifestyle and like no pain and things like that. So the way that you train as an individual in life is completely different to how a sportsman trains, because the purpose is different.
I'm with you. Yeah, I think S&C, and, you know, I use this term loosely, functional fitness
Yeah.
is very underrated. And when I say functional fitness, I mean functional fitness done properly, not kind of jumping around a room or doing dancing on a BOSU or anything like that. I mean actual functional fitness stuff that's going to allow you to get generally physically prepared across several domains. I mean, that's very underrated. And I think the whole perspective of using performance-based training for your general population is an underutilized method to get people to where they want to be. But anyway, so go on, carry on where you were. You were introduced to fitness and you decided to go down that route.
Oh yeah, so yeah, I started working as a PT, and
Cool.
I was living in London, so I would start working as a PT with clients in a small gym in Chiswick, and then I started doing boot camps on the Commons, and then picked up a few private clients, went to their houses, and then it evolved. Whereas to now, over like 9 years later, I run a company called Endeavour Life, which is an online coaching platform for people who want to look good, feel good, get healthy, but also look after their mindset as well. So we work with, and not just training and nutrition, but also we have a mindset coaching course as well, which we give to everyone as part of it. So I do that, and it's mainly online. And actually, I still do some PT face to face, but that's more on the online space now, because that's where I see the potential for me to be able to impact more people.
What does your mindset course look like? I'm always interested in that. Everyone has a very different perspective on mindset. Everyone has a different kind of experience with it and a different way of approaching it. Obviously, everybody's different. Everybody reacts differently to different types of mindset training. But what does it look like for you guys at Endeavour?
Yeah, sure. So I suppose like the term mindset is as broad and general as the term fitness.
Yeah.
So with us, our mindset course is about confidence. So it is, kind of starts off with self-awareness, understanding you. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What are the things that hold you back? Where do you want to go? What are you doing at the moment? How does it affect that? What do you want to get out of life? What do you believe? What are your values? Like kind of getting to know you, and then taking your head from in the sand up and looking around and like shining a light on it, and actually like becoming aware first and foremost. So self-awareness, and then like following that journey of self-awareness and understanding and discovery to taking action. And that's the key thing, is like, it's one thing to be like, I'm going to be mindful of X, Y, and Z, or I'm going to do yoga and find my Zen. But like for us, it's action. Take action. Because if you want something in life, thinking it is one thing, but unless you do it, you ain't going to get shit. So our approach is action, taking action to make stuff happen.
That's good. There's so much. There's obviously, it's 2020 now. Like our mental health is very much coming into the forefront of day-to-day life. It's in the mainstream media. It's all over social media. And there's, like you just said, there's so much talk of like, what is mindset? Mindset is this. And for a lot of people, it isn't very relatable because there's a lot of fluff and a lot of buzzwords and a lot of like, I can't understand that in a black and white format. So to have an approach which is very actionable is so beneficial for people, because so many people now are just turned off by that idea. I know I say things to clients now and they roll their eyes a little bit at me because they've been exposed to all these, unactionable methods of mindset and all the stuff in the mainstream media, and there's never any real weight to it. It's probably the best way of putting it. And like you said, that whole perspective of looking inwards, a lot of people don't do that now. We spend our daily life constantly serving the people around us and serving the environment around us, whether it be our job or our family. And I think a very underrated thing is having that time in our day where we reflect and we kind of really look inwards and take stock of what our current situation is like, which ultimately comes back to self-awareness, like you just said.
Well, I think, sorry mate, I just want to kind of add on to that, because you spoke really well about it, and like that's what I thought as well. Like when I first was thinking about how can I help people with their mindset, I'm like, what do I not want it to be? I was like, I don't want it to be fluffy. Don't want it to be all yoga-y and zen and like, look within yourself and find your center, and then the soul will flow through the winds of time and space. And I'm like, fuck that. Tell me something I can use. Like, what does that actually mean? What does it mean? And so that's when I came up with the concept of practical action-based performance coaching. That is what it is. It's like practical as in the shit you do day to day, like the actual relevance. Action-based as in you got to do something to create a change. And then performance coaching as in how do I make my life better? How can I perform better in all areas of my life? Because like your mindset, it impacts everything you do. And it's not a case of like finding Zen and therefore you are at one. Like that might work for some people, but not for a lot of people, especially if you're not really into that spiritual, soulful yoga vibe. So yeah, like how can you actually make those changes? It's like it just impacts so many other different areas of life. So that's why we kind of did
Yeah,
it the way we did it.
I like you just that point at the end then about impacting areas, different areas of your life. One of the main things that I've always said as a PT, and I understood this from day one, and I was never very good at articulating it in my early days as a coach, but I'm way better at it now, is that the reason we do fitness is because not only does it develop our physical attributes, but it develops a lot of our mental attributes as well, like resilience and character and patience and things like that. And that ultimately spills over into other areas of our life, be it work, be it relationships, be it social situations. And that in turn creates and cultivates a lot more happiness, which is a big, I've got this on the list to get into later in the podcast about the fitness industry and the way it is at the moment. But I think like that's something that's very much overlooked, is that ultimately the reason we do fitness and the reason we do mindset coaching or whatever we do is because we want to make ourselves happy in some form, or we do something that ultimately creates happiness. And that, like what you said at the end, is how doing something that is going to spill over into our normal day-to-day life and cultivate that happiness is really important. So anyway, what did your early days as a PT look like then? What was it like being a coach? You know, what I'm trying to get at, what I want to understand is how your different outlook as a coach now is different to how your outlook as a coach back in the early days.
I think that coming from a strength and conditioning degree background, my outlook was strength and conditioning adapted to Gen Pop. So I would use terminology from strength and conditioning industry, not from Gen Pop knowledge, right? So the word toning, I hated that word because it doesn't mean anything in physiological terms. It is just a word that's been kind of coined, but what it is effectively is just losing body fat and gaining muscle mass. Like that is what toning is. And so like I was trying to bring this idea of S&C into Gen Pop training and training people like athletes, which is fine, and it's actually now what functional fitness is technically. But you know, it's using the background, the basis of strength and conditioning to train people in a performance focused rather than bodybuilding or yoga or whatever other way of training people want to adapt. So like then it was, for me, I would write out training programs and you know, use percentages for trying to figure out load and intensity, and like huge spreadsheets of information for each client, and based on like 4 sessions a week or whatever it is. And then like, you know, client would miss a session and I'm like, well, this is pointless then. I've just done all this work and then like you just missed a session, or they turn up and they be hungover and then they wouldn't perform very well. And I'm like, so you can't hit the prescribed intensity because of other factors that affect you. And so so I had to learn, and this is the key thing, is between athletes and Gen Pop individuals, is that it's an athlete's job. Their sole purpose is to get better at their sport. They don't miss sessions. They don't turn up hungover. They have focus all the time because they want to be the best. And the way that they get to be the best is by training at exactly the right margin that they need to get the extra 1%. Gen Pop do not have that mentality. Most people don't care that much, and that's cool. Like, they don't have to. They're not an athlete. Like, they've got other things going on in life. Like, some people might really want to get in great shape. Some people might want to add 10, 20, 30 kilos to their deadlift.
Yeah.
But most people want to feel good. They want to look good. They want to be healthy, and they want to not have any pain.
Yeah.
And so the difference now to how I trained people then is I still have the same fundamental belief system. It's just that now I am not so, I suppose, rigid. I'm a lot more malleable. And actually, like, when thinking about coaching someone, what's the most important thing? That's the consideration. Is like, when you're coaching an athlete, an elite athlete, the most important thing is getting them fitter or stronger or faster or bigger or whatever the physiological adaptation is. Whereas with someone who's Gen Pop, what is the most important thing for them? Physiological adaptation sometimes really isn't. It might be that they enjoy the session. It might be that this is the only form of exercise that they're doing this week, and so you need to make sure that they enjoy it so they come back next week. It might be that they need to deload mentally. Like, there's just more variables to consider. So having a perfect training program isn't the be all and end all of being a good coach.
Yeah, I think it's going to sound really arrogant now, but I was
Go on,
always
Connor.
I was always a good PT from the outset. And I think I remember starting at my original gym. You ever heard of David Lloyd gyms? You probably have down in London. So I started at David Lloyd, first proper gym that I worked at. And then there was a good group of us that started. By the end of year one, I got made the manager of that gym. All of the PTs who had started with me had failed in their business and left and now doing other things. And I always think it was because out of all of those personal trainers is that I came at the angle of personal training from the angle of Gen Pop. Everybody else who started with me was an athlete in some kind, or they were heavy into bodybuilding, or they were heavy into something specific within the realm of fitness. I just came at it because I was pretty good with people and I enjoyed people. And I also had a good business mindset. However, so like all those other guys who came at it and they approached clients from the perspective of, you need to train like me to be like me. I'm a bodybuilder. I'm shredded. You want to look like me, so you got to train like me. It's not very relatable for most people. And like you said, most people out there are just looking to feel better within themselves. And like I said before, like cultivate a bit of happiness and ultimately serve their environment and the lifestyle around them a little bit better. And I think that's an important thing for any coaches out there. Like, we are in an industry where there's such a high turnover of fitness professionals. We are meant to be giving people advice that ultimately spills over into very, broad areas, not just fitness. Yet a lot of us struggle to maintain our own business and do what's necessary to grow that business, even from like a confidence perspective on the gym floor, going out and talking to people. A lot of personal trainers struggle with that. And there's that big void between the client and the coach that ultimately needs to get closed a little bit. That kind of segues nicely into what I wanted to talk about next. The fitness industry as a whole, you've had a massive amount of exposure to it now, and you've been on a bit of a journey through it. What do you think the fitness industry is like, and where's it going? Where's it come from? And kind of like unpack that for us.
Well, it's come from bodybuilding.
Yeah.
That was the, 90s, 2000, early 2000s. Bodybuilding was the main driver of the gym. And then you had, everyone was super disconnected. So you have like the bodybuilding form of training, and that was the only thing you did in the gym. And then you have the yogis that would be in a different place doing yoga. And then you'd have the athletes in a different place doing whatever it was that they were doing. And you'd have the runners that would go and run. And it was all super disconnected. Whereas now, everything's kind of coming together. Like, it's coming more together. Because I think the idea in the past was like, if you want to do something, you just have to do that one thing. Whereas functional fitness, the term functional fitness for me is the idea of using fitness to be better at being human, right? So
Yeah.
that sounds super fluffy. What I mean
No,
is
that's good. I
to
like
be
that.
able to do all the things that you want to do. Like if you want to go and, I don't know, hike, if you want to go ride your bike, if you want to go surf, if you want to go snowboarding, if you want to be able to climb the stairs to get up to your house, to carry your baby, to lift your dog into the car, to be able to do all of these things, like effectively your body is a vehicle to carry your mind through life. So do you want your vehicle to be able to do all of the stuff that you want to do, or do you want your vehicle to be all fucking rusty and shit and broken down? Like that's functional fitness is making your vehicle a Ferrari instead of a mini metro. Like that's the difference. So I think like it's bringing things together, the acceptance of different training modalities, different training methodologies into one program to be able to do lots of stuff, I think is where the industry is coming together. There's obviously still like hardcore bodybuilders are in one space, and you've got your people that only go to spin in another place, and yogis in another place. But you know, more and more I'm getting people that have done years and years of yoga asking me how to strength train, and I've
Yeah.
got guys that have only ever strength trained asking me how to get more flexible. And so it is the combination of the different areas together, which is where I see the industry going.
Yeah, I think the industry has always had a massive emphasis on the physiological part of fitness, so our body, how we look, how we perform, etc. And I think science in recent years is very much caught up on the psychological part of training. So now we are starting to approach fitness from the perspective of how do we do it that's not only going to make us physiologically better, but psychologically better as well, which is what we spoke about a little bit at the start. And I think that's why we are now starting to recognize things like, okay, bodybuilding training maybe not be the most ideal because it cultivates eating disorders and other, body dysmorphia and bad psychological relationships with ourselves and with food. And things like yoga, okay, it may be very spiritually amazing, but does it cultivate things like resilience and like other characteristics that can help us in real life? So I think there's been a big acceptance that actually we can use fitness for more than just our body, for how we feel as well. So if we can kind of bring all these different ways together, like you said, and do it in a way that's going to benefit us the most physically, but the most mentally as well. So what do you think anything needs to change in the fitness industry? It's like you said, there's been a lot of change recently. What are the big downfalls that you see in the industry?
I think the main problem is still a lack of quality coaches.
Okay.
No, you said earlier we've got big churn. Lots
Yeah.
of trainers come in and then leave,
Yeah.
and then more come in and then leave. And if you're a customer, then a lot of the time your fitness, the thing you go and speak to this trainer about, is really important to you. You might not let it on, but deep down it is important to you. And for some people it's not even deep, it's right at the surface, it matters fucking loads.
Yeah.
And so as trainers and coaches, we have such a powerful position to help someone, and like we can affect such big change in someone's life, and really like not just physiologically, but like you mentioned, mentally. And like you can give someone loads of confidence and you can brighten their day and you can change their life. And that is a powerful tool. But because the barrier to entry is so low in the
Mm.
UK especially, and the first and second year working conditions are so hard, most PTs are sold a dream and then realize it ain't the dream. like the truth is that in the UK, you can get your level 3 PT qualification in 6 weeks, and you can go and work for any major chain gym, David Lloyd, Virgin, the gym, Easy Gym. There's like loads and loads. You could go and get a job there, and you are a PT and you're a qualified PT, and there's nothing wrong with that. But you've got 6 weeks of education and potentially no experience, and then you are left
Yeah.
with your clients, and not even just left with your clients. You know, you're going out and build your business is what people are sold. You know, the UK industry, it's a self-employed industry primarily. There's not many gyms which offer employed PTs, and so your income is based on your ability to build your business. And I'm using speech marks because that's what the gyms tell you, you're building your business, but you're not really, because yes, they may be your clients and they pay you, but you're only allowed to train them in the gym, and you can't bring other people into the gym unless they're a member of the gym. And if you leave the gym, then it's unlikely you're going to take those clients with you to wherever it is that you go. So you're not really building a business that is yours. You're actually building a business for the gym and making the gym money, but you're sold that you're building your own business. So it's completely conflicting, and we're sold a lie, basically.
It is incredibly hard. Like I always remember back when I first started as a personal trainer, and like you said, you sold the dream and you go into it thinking this is going to be cool. I've got a job that looks good. I get to walk around the gym, flaunting my stuff all day and just talking to people. And actually it's incredibly hard. And, you know, like ultimately to survive, you've got to really get good with people, I found. And then by getting good with people, it means that you have really deep relationships with your clients. And sometimes they will come in and they will tell you things that they would not tell any other people in their life. And you become half personal trainer and half therapist with some clients, not everyone, to a certain degree. And ultimately this means is that you are absorbing and having to give so much energy on a daily basis. And that ultimately then becomes incredibly hard. So to do that consistently at a good level all day is near on impossible. So then it in turn dilutes your business. And that's even if you get to the point of being confident enough to go out there and successfully ascertain clients in the first place. So it's a bit of like a funky one. And this is where it comes down to the gyms themselves. Like you said, it's a bit of a conflicting ideology. And if the gyms themselves provide massive support systems in place, and it's kind of like in a way it kind of falls back onto the problem of the big box gym, how they go, a lot of big box gyms, especially in the UK, where they offer gym memberships at a low price. Their whole concept is we want you to come and pay your membership, but we don't want you to actually come to the gym. Whereas if we got out of that mindset and we were, all right, we actually want to help the people who attend our gym. How do we do that? We support our personal trainers and gym floor staff in any way we can. How does that look? That means we need to support them by helping them build their businesses and doing so in a way that's sustainable. So that means they need to charge enough money or charge a high enough amount for their personal training sessions so they can do a limited amount per day and still earn a good amount of income. So like you can see already how like not confusing, but how hard a process that is to kind of like cultivate and sustain. I think another big problem within the industry as well is a lot of it comes down to the user, to the person who attends the gym. You know, there's the UK fitness industry is worth millions, probably billions by this point, and I don't think a lot of that is down to like poor behaviors and cake and you know bad habits that has led us to be overweight. I think a lot of it has led us, it's the quick fixes and fads that people have opted into instead of opting for more sustainable longevity methods. So they are opting into these quick fixes and these fads, which in turn leads them down a path which ends up with them spending their hard-earned cash, and then they fall off that path because ultimately it's a quick fix and it's a fad and it doesn't work, and they keep repeating that cycle, which ultimately fuels the industry in a really weird and unhealthy way. I'm not sure if you agree, but like it's one of those, it's a very double-edged sword. The leaders of the industry, there's a massive churn, and also the users of the industry need to start buying into the businesses that provide us with quick fixes.
Yeah, I mean, so many things that are wrong. Okay, so with the PTs, like is training someone one-on-one really an effective way of using time? I actually don't necessarily think that one-to-one PT is an effective use of time. And now I'm seeing more studios and more privately owned gyms running small group training, and it'll be similar training, like as in, you know, you might get 3 or 4 people working with one person and they'll be training them all at the same time, and they can give them enough attention and they don't need to worry about the one-to-one element of it, because you're going to get just as much attention from that coach throughout that session.
Do you know what though? Sorry to interrupt. I agree, but I also disagree in a way where there's a lot of my time now with my clients actually is spent having really important, meaningful conversations and like hard conversations. You know, like, you know how it is, like you start with a client and they say, I want to do this. And then, you know, 6 weeks down the line, you've unpacked that a little bit more session by session. And you actually understand they don't want that. They want that because of something else. And then they want that
Yeah.
because of something else. And you start peeling back the layers. And and those one-on-one conversations that some of my clients especially need to have. They need to have those conversations, and the environment of the gym and fitness and the whole that process of improvement is where it ultimately comes out. And sometimes you wouldn't be able to have that in a group setting. But I believe like it comes
Yeah.
back to different people, different folks, different strokes. And I think the longer your journey, I think you can definitely benefit from a one-to-one PT. But if
No,
you're,
there's definitely benefit. Like, it's not that it is pointless. And like you said, different strokes, different folks, because that's actually something I've definitely learned through my journey as a PT, is that there's not a perfect solution.
yeah,
There is not a perfect solution. Every single way of training has a flaw. And so it's finding the right way of training for you. Are you the type of person that wants a one-on-one PT, that wants that conversation, that wants that constant attention, and you're willing to pay a premium for it? Or are you somebody that actually doesn't need that, and small group training would be a perfect solution for you? Or are you someone that's really social, that wants to go to a CrossFit class and do a workout with that environment? Or are you somebody that wants to train by yourself and have an online coach? Or are you somebody that wants to go to spin? Like, what is the thing for you? Because, you know, we're all different, and there isn't a perfect solution. There is a problem everywhere. Yeah, so there's definitely that. What was the other thing I was going to say about
quick fix
being a
fads.
PT? Oh yeah, that, like, all right, so it's tricky, because as human beings, we always try and find the easy solution. It's the mother of all invention. Like, we do most of the stuff that we do is to make our life easier, right? Like, most of the inventions that we have are to make life easier. And so it's within our nature as human beings to find the easy thing. And you combine that with instant gratification, and you've got these quick fads which claim so much and deliver so little, but people are willing to try it because actually there's a bunch of other barriers in the way of doing the longer thing. And I think that what it comes down to is education. And as a result of the positive influences on Instagram, you know, they're educating people as to what really is important. That's going to allow it to, from the grassroots, to change. And the industry is changing as a result of functional fitness. Like, in the main gyms now, it's pretty common you have a functional fitness space instead of just having a bunch of machines, which is what bodybuilding influenced us to have. And then a cardio section, which is just loads of people on the runner. So we are seeing the change. But I think, like, the truth is, it doesn't need to be as complicated as it's made out to be most of the time. Like, food isn't complicated. It's not, but we're constantly sold the idea that we need something special, a new invention or a new product or a new thing, because that's how companies make money. Like, when was the last time you saw an advert for an apple? Like an actual apple that you eat, or an orange, or a banana, or an onion? We don't see it because, like, it's not a new product. It's not something which a company needs to market and advertise. But fruit and veggies and lean proteins and complex carbohydrates, stuff that you get from the grocer or the fishmonger or the butcher, like, they're the kind of foods that we need to eat. They're the things that make us healthy. And I think, like, just kind of getting back to eating more like that as a foundation is going to be what most people need to do. And they'll get so much advantage simply from doing that and just doing some fitness. But it's just too marketed at. We're too marketed at.
Yeah,
So people think they need something they don't.
Yeah, people are very A to Z thinkers. Like we all we want to get to, we're at A, we want to get to Z, but we don't acknowledge B, C, D, and everything in between, all the little steps and hurdles that we want to take. I think life can be a lot easier, and that's why we use technology. Like you've got AirPods in, it's a quicker way and easier way of listening to things through your ears as opposed to having wires and whatever. From a technology and a lifestyle standpoint, we can do that, but ultimately the human body doesn't really evolve that much to the point where what worked a long time ago and what worked in the 60s, but like you said, will still work now. No one anytime soon is going to bring out any crazy pill or fat loss injection or weird drink that's going to help you lose weight quicker. Like the old ways are always going to be the best ways when it comes to the human body and the mind.
Well, the thing about training is it hasn't really changed.
Yeah.
Like
Just how it's
we
packaged has always
acknowledge,
changed.
yeah, like how it's packaged has changed, how it's marketed has changed, but effectively the same way that we get fit and strong is very similar to like decades and decades ago.
Yeah.
Like you lift weight regularly, you get stronger. You run a lot, you'll get better at running. You swim a lot, you'll get better at swimming. Like fitness and the body, it's very much the same. Like how do you lose weight? You need to be in a calorie deficit. And how do most people do that? Lift weights and eat protein. Like it's really simple. It's like the same
Yeah.
stuff, but it's almost like a battle between us telling people this and reinforcing that nothing different needs to have happen. It's just the difficulties that people face in their day-to-day life that make it harder to do that.
Do you know what popped into my head when you were saying that? A lot of it kind of comes back to what we were just speaking about with coaches, where there's that desire to like, oh, I'm not doing as well as I thought I'm going to be doing. I need to make some money quick, fast. How do I do that? I put together some terrible ebook that's going to promise results in a fixed period of time, or I sell this weird shake. And like, so you can kind of see how everything's starting to tie together, how like the poor coaching leads into the quick fixes and the fads, and how it's kind of cultivating this, well, not so much anymore, but it cultivated this kind of not very nice industry to be a part of. But like you said, it's definitely moving in the right direction now. And, people like me and people like you are really trying to educate people from a clear-cut perspective of, you want to look better, you want to feel better, you want to get healthy, this is how you do it. It's not really that overly complicated.
No.
We touched a lot on like mindset and stuff at the start. You have always appeared to have cultivated a life that you're really happy in, and you kind of seem to do things the way you want to. You're living the life that you want to live ultimately, and a lot of people out there don't. So I want to like unpack that a little bit with you and kind of get to know what happens behind closed doors, what happens behind social media, and how you've got to the position that you are in now where you're leading a lifestyle that you're really happy with.
Great question, man. The truth is that I've always just done stuff, right? So, earlier when I was like action-based performance coaching,
Yeah.
that's how that my belief is. You don't get anything unless you do it. And if you want something, you should do it. And, if you want to have a life where you work from home, then you need to make that happen because no one else is going to make it happen for you. So, like, how did that all start for me was the decision to never work for a gym, first and foremost. I've always worked for myself, like truly for myself, in that I would find clients through networking, through talking, through client referrals, not in the gym, out the gym. And then I'd bring them to the place where I would work. So that was the first thing I did. I made a big effort to find a gym where I could rent the space rather than being self-employed for the gym.
Yeah.
There's a difference there. And then as a result of that, like always thinking like, where do I want to be? And then planning out those steps and then moving and taking action towards those things. So, yeah, like I have like a whiteboard just up here, which has like loads of information on it. And in the top corner, it has like what I deem as success, right? And like my personal definition of success is probably different to yours, is probably different to other people's. And like, for me, my success, part of it is to be time flexible or time rich, because I see personally as time as the most important, valuable commodity that we as a human being can ever possess, because it is something that we are losing every day and we cannot get more of. So it is precious. You can get more money, you can get more stuff, you can eat more food, you can pretty much get more of anything that you want.
Yeah.
It will cost you, but you can get it. Whereas time, you can't. So for me, it's having that flexibility to not be um, controlled into having to do other things that don't move me towards my goal. And so having a real clear understanding of what my goal is, of what my definition of success is, and then taking steps from that to work back to find out what is it I have to do right now in order to move towards that. And you know, that's what I've constantly done. And sometimes I've kind of deviated a little bit, and then I've caught myself back on track, and then I've deviated a little bit and I've got myself back on track. And that happens. And sometimes you're going to make a decision, and you do it for 6 months or a year, and you realize, actually, that didn't take me in the right direction. I need to like rethink and bring myself back to where it is that I should be. And I've always had this work hard mentality, but work smart as well. So I kind of trying to do the two.
Yeah, something I'm definitely guilty of is that I'm like I fall into I lean into one way or the other. I fall into the trap of just being a pure workhorse, and I'm like, got to do whatever it takes, got to do whatever it takes, got to do whatever it takes. Or I fall into the other way where I really rein it back and I chill out a lot and I prioritize myself a lot. And there's ultimately I've recently, especially during lockdown, and we're filming this towards the end of COVID, and like during this period, I've really prioritized finding that balance. Like towards the start of COVID, we were like the only thing we could really do was go outside and do a walk per day. And like I started doing that, and then I was like, "Oh, this is good. This is like coming up with cool little business ideas," and it was my real inwards time. And I've maintained that now. Like I still try and do that as much as I can, even though I don't really have to now, because I can go outside and do other things and whatever. But having that time and that balance between I'm doing something with my time that I want to do, so that time richness, but then also investing time into the future by doing what really needs to be done right now. But sorry, that was a bit of a divergence from what you were saying, but yeah.
No, it's good though. Like, when I was younger, like my dad, he was always out of the house. Like he worked all the time. My mum was a dentist, like she worked a lot as well. So I was brought up with the idea of work being like you don't complain, you just get on and do it, right? Like, and you work hard and you work long hours, and that is success. And like I saw this, and I have a really good working mentality as a result of that. But then I also just started to question, like, what is it that I really want from life? And I'd look around and I'd see these lawyers and I'd see these doctors and I'd see people that have jobs which take up 90% of the time that they're awake. And I just think to myself, like, this is me personally just thinking, do I really want that? Like, what do I want out of my life? And to spend that amount of my time doing something, I'd have to really believe in that thing in order to do it. And sometimes we have to spend time doing stuff that we don't want to do in order to take that next step forward. And completely believe in investing now in something to grow, to move is something we all should do. And it is a luxury to be able to choose when and when not to work. Like, I'm not saying that from like day one I was like, oh no, that's far too much time working. It's not that at all. It's the case of like me looking at the future and being like, okay, in the future I want to be able to not work Monday to Friday and then just have 2 days of my week where I'm off. But I want to be able to work Monday and then have Tuesday off, and then I want to work Wednesday and Thursday and then have Friday off, and then I want to work Saturday and I'll have Sunday off, or I'll work half a day here or whatever. And like, instead of it being like chunks of my time. I was looking when I was young, and I was looking to the future, and I was like, I want to be able to work and play and work and play and work and
Yeah.
play. And so that's been a drive of mine. So I read books about it. So I read journals. So I listened to podcasts. So I educated myself on how to go about doing that, how to run my business in a way that allows me to do that. And so because I have this drive of what I deem success to be, and part of that is to be time flexible, I've created a business and a lifestyle which allows for that. And I think what a lot of people don't do is they never think critically about what they want their life to be. And so as a result of that, they just follow through steps because they think that's what they should do.
I think people become very resistant to change, especially, and the further along we go in life, the more resistant to change we become. And I always found that when things, quite
Gambling. It's like gambling.
Exactly.
The more you put on the table, the less you want to step away from the table for fear of losing it. The same with your work.
100%. And I think I found, and like, there was events were happening in my life, and people around me were like, "Whoa, how, was that all right? How did you deal with that?" And I was like, "Oh, I didn't really think it was that bad. Why was everyone freaking out so much?" And like, what I found myself doing now is I'm talking to clients, and they've got really poor lifestyle frameworks where they might have a really stressful job that they perceive as really stressful, or they may work nights or something like that. And I'll find myself saying, "Well, maybe look for a new job." And just going down that rabbit hole of discussing that, and like they're like, "Whoa, I'm not just going to go and look for a new job." And I'm like, "Well, what's more important, your health and your happiness, or your source of income? You can go and find the same paying job that's going to provide you with more happiness somewhere else. So why don't we do that?" And I think people underestimate the value of doing what we want to and what's going to make us happy. And I think a lot of the time we see that as something that's really far away, something we can't get our hands on, and we've just got to plod through life dealing with the cards that have been dealt us, when actually it's very much within our power to make the changes necessary to make us happy and do whatever the hell we want to do to make us happy in the long run.
Yeah, it's a lot of the time we live in should. I should do this, I should do that, I should do this, instead of thinking, what do I want?
Yeah.
What do I want to do? What do I want to work as? Like, and yeah, like we can, like I was saying, like sometimes you do have to do a job which you don't like, which doesn't pay very well because it gives you some other thing. But always be thinking about, what is this leading on to? And if I don't like it, what can I do to either make myself like it, or find something better, or do something else? And I literally was on the phone with a client 2 hours ago. She was complaining about her job, and I'm like, right, well, you've got two choices. Your first choice is you just look for another job. You just go out and you write down all your skill set, you freshen up your CV, you go and you apply for different jobs and you try and find it. Or option two is you just deal with it. You've got a year left, you just suck it up. You realize, yeah, it's not going to be that great, but I'm doing it because of X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
And you have to make a choice. If you don't like something, what are you going to do about it? Because no one cares about your life as much as you do. So you're the one that needs to drive your life forward. No one's going to be like, oh yeah, you really, really need to do this. It's like, if you're not happy with something, then either decide you're going to change it or accept it. Like, they're the options. And so that's the truth about life. And a lot of people never really, they live in, oh, I don't like this, and it's just the don't like, rather than well, what can I do to change it? What do I want my life to be?
So, final point, we'll get into the last little question that I've got for you. You talk massively about vulnerability. It's something you spoke a lot about on the show. It's something that I catch you speaking a lot about on social media, and you're very open, and you express your feelings in a very open way, which a lot of people don't, especially men don't. So let's get into that. Unpack it for me, kind of like explain what that means to you, and how to kind of like be a modern day man as such, is what I think that's the word that you've used a few times.
Yeah, so all right, vulnerability is, I used to think that a man was just strong and was either silent or angry. Like, that was the options that we had. Like when I was a teenager, you know, and that anything but strength was weakness. And so if there was something that I was like insecure about or vulnerable about, I would like repress it and hide it. And you know, what I realized, and this is pretty much the case for most people, is when you repress something, you push it down, it slowly builds and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger and right. And so you get this like disproportionate reaction to something. You know, there's like you hear people say the straw that broke the camel's back. So you might have a completely disproportionate reaction to someone because you say something and it triggers the eruption of that deep rooted repressed pain. And so then that eruption for that person blows onto you. So I started to think like, is that really the best way to do things? And then I just started to talk to people and understand like, what are my vulnerabilities? What are my weaknesses? What do I repress? And then start to talk about them. And effectively, the more you talk about these vulnerabilities and weaknesses, you normalize them. And it's the same for everything, right? Like, the more that we talk about everything, the more that we normalize it and people just get used to it. It's like, it's pride. It's still what it was, pride, Gay Pride Month, right? Yeah. LGBTQ plus community. And like 30 years ago, wasn't normal.
Yeah.
But then slowly people talk about it. And now it's completely normal. Here in the UK, it is, no one bats an eyelid. You know, it's just, that is just who you are. We don't care. You do you. And that is something which was super repressed for millions of people. But now it's normal because we talk about it. And it's the same for all your other insecurities. You know, you could be insecure about how your face is, how your stomach looks, how you talk, how you walk. You could be insecure about anything. Like, we all have these weird insecurities. And if we repress them, then they get bigger. But if we own them, then they lose their power. So the most accurate representation of this that most people will know is in 8 Mile, where Eminem is battling at the end and he just spouts off all the things about himself. And he's like, I live in a trailer, I got beaten up by you lot, thingy had sex with my missus, like blah 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 blah. Cool, yeah, that's me.
Yeah,
I don't care, right? And so he owned up to all these things and all these potential weaknesses in who he is as a person and his life that people would use to gun him. He goes, yeah, it's me. I don't care. You can't hurt me because I accept these things about me. So as a result of me kind of talking to people and reading books and going on that personal journey, and then I very much was like, oh my God, mind blown when I recognized that. I was like, right, well, I'm just going to do it. And I'll just talk about things that are or were vulnerabilities of mine. And then it is amazing how they lose their power.
Can be quite a liberating process.
Massively liberating, yeah, it is.
Mate, let's bring it to the end. We've been chatting for a good 60 minutes now. I really enjoyed this, mate. Actually, let's get a little bit into, you spoke a little bit about the start. What is Endeavour Life? Where can people come and find you and so forth?
Yeah, man. So Endeavour Life is basically an online coaching platform, primarily with food and fitness. And then we also have this mindset coaching course that I mentioned previously. And you can find us on Instagram at Endeavour Life or endeavourlife.com. And yeah, I'm like really, really excited. We're actually literally launching a brand new app in 2 weeks as well. So that's going to make the whole process more efficient, more effective, more personalized than it ever has been. And I'm really, really excited about that. So yeah, that's where most people can find that. And then me, if you guys want to follow me on the gram, it's just at david.birtwistle. Or TikTok. I don't know if any of you guys are on TikTok, but I am loving TikTok at the moment, and it's at david.birtwistle on TikTok as well. You'll see me dancing and popping and knocking and like little shimmies.
Mate, thank you very much for coming on the show, mate. I've really enjoyed this.
You're welcome, dude. Thanks so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
You're welcome. Thank you very much, guys. Thank you for listening and have an amazing day.